Welcome to the chain. This is the BCC Club, and we're your hosts. I'm Kendahl and Sarah.
And I'm Sarah Shower, and each week we like to go down an internet rabbit hole. What hole are we getting back into today?
This is a part, 90 of 8 passengers. Yes. Got to stop doing a fun accent for it because it's a very sad story. Yeah. But if you haven't heard any of our 8 passengers episodes, to be honest, maybe this wouldn't be a great one to start with. There are just deep dives upon deep dives of this family that 2 years ago when we started talking about them, the mother wasn't even in jail.
Yeah.
She hadn't even been arrested.
And now she is in jail.
And I said, I think this woman might end up in jail one day, and now she's in prison. And there are just continual updates of what's going on. And I think the reason we like talking about it is because it's a good through line to discussing family vloggers, which, we're thumbs down for.
Yeah.
And there has been a lot of interesting stuff happening recently in Utah with this family in regards to passing laws about this. So we've got some fun updates. Fun is probably not what I'd call it. We've got some updates about it.
Updates, yeah.
And before we get into that, how was your week, Sarah?
It was good. Besides, I talked about in the last episode, the Boy Moms Part 1, the cats have destroyed some Lego sets, and I didn't get upset with them, which is a great thing for reparenting myself. I don't know, a good way to test if you're reparenting yourself works is to see how you treat your animals. If your pets do something like throw up or poop inside, and if you've been reparenting yourself and you look at how you react to that, and if you're everyone makes mistakes, or we didn't let the dog out, so it's grain of salt sort of thing, then I think that reparenting yourself is working. But yeah, so they destroyed some of the Legos. And the thing is, oh my God, actually another thing. So I have this map project going on. And in this, I have this tiny hole in my wall that's for keys and stuff. It's by the door. But I also keep the pins for my map project. And so I love reading in the morning.
Like thumbtacks?
Yes. It's my favorite thing to do. But usually my routine is I have a cup of coffee, I have a protein shake, and I have a large thing of water, right? And so I have literally all 3 of those in my hands as I'm walking down the dark hallway to go read. And then I immediately step on 20 thumbtacks. And when I tell you, I drop to my knees like a Family Guy cartoon. I was on the floor, just contorted in pain. I tried not to scream because I like to read really early. And so I was and then I did pour the coffee on me because because I was carrying it. I mean, thankfully the water and the protein shakes, they were covered, so they didn't, but the coffee went on me. And
what happened? Why were they on the ground?
Because the cats knocked it off the shelf.
That is terrible. That's one of the worst things I've ever heard.
Yeah, so
were they bleeding, your feet?
Yes. And so I'm fine. But they punctured me a lot. And so it did kind of start my morning off kind of rough.
You want to know something that's gone into my foot?
What?
This happened years ago, and I still just recently stopped having pain from it. But this was, it would have been before my dad died, so because he was there. But it was years before that even. It was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I was skipping through the house, as one does. And we had a small house, and I would kind of dance around. I was in my dance mom's phase, so I was skipping around. I step so hard, I'm fully airborne. Come down and feel more pain in my foot than I've ever imagined.
Okay.
Trigger warning if you get squeamish. Once again, that's the second time today I've had to warn people. I got to chill out. But it's a little gross. I look down, and when you step on a thumbtack, it's so in your foot that you just see the top of it and you have to pull it out.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
It hurt so bad that I remember it hurting so bad that my dad was laughing because I was laughing so hard. It was so painful that I wasn't even ow. I was crying, laughing.
Yes.
My body was in shock. So I pull out whatever's in my foot. It is a Risk game piece. One of those army men.
Yes.
Had gone fully in my foot to the point where you just saw where it stood on, the little flat part.
Oh my God.
It was so deep, and I pulled it out, and I remember it was a sketch comedy show. It was a hole in my. It was when people do impressions of zombies. I don't know what I'm even comparing this to, but just a comically just a hole in my foot.
Yes.
And I couldn't walk the next day. I remember that at all. Not oh it hurts. I could not walk on it. Any weight I would just fall. I couldn't walk. And to this day, I still have a scar there, but it finally stopped hurting. But for a long time it hurt, but then for a really long time, if it got like cold, almost like arthritis, it would like flare up and hurt really bad. And I, for a long time, was like, one day, a little bit of that risk piece is going to come out. Like, that's what I think is going to happen. Like, I think deep in my foot, there's like the head of the risk piece or something.
Oh my God.
Because it still hurts sometimes, and there's like a scar there that won't go away.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Wait, so when you pulled it out, did you pull out the entire thing?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really look. I was like, oh, it's a risk. I didn't really think to look. Like, I assume it was all of it. When I pulled it out, it was all there. But it was, I mean, those are like thick.
Yes.
Like, to puncture me at all is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's not sharp. It like fully impaled my foot, and it's not sharp. So that's how hard I came down on it.
Oh my God.
Isn't that so crazy?
That is awful.
Scarier for the piece. I was kind of like a big piano falling from the sky.
Yeah, you took a risk.
I did.
And it didn't pay off.
That was a really crazy one. That really hurt bad. That was bad.
I'm trying to think about the most pain I've ever been in. But
that one, it's weird because I feel like sometimes something so bad will happen that I don't even consider it the most pain I've ever had.
Yeah.
Like, I would say one of the most painful things ever was when I broke my toe last year.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was like my pinky toe, and it's enough pain. Like, I broke a bone, but it's not so much that it makes me numb. Like, I felt it break, and I felt how much it hurt.
Yeah.
Versus like I've broken bigger bones, or like I've had something really painful happen, and it's like so painful you're almost like not even experiencing the pain.
Yeah.
Cause like I was watching 911 recently.
Yeah.
And they're in a plane crash, and the girl's breaks her leg so bad.
Yeah.
Like so bad. Like it's so fucked up.
Yeah.
And it starts swelling to the point that they need to cut open her leg just to like relieve swelling while the plane's crashing. And I was like, I don't know if it would hurt this bad. I think maybe she would not even be feeling any pain because she would be so like crazed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like her adrenaline would be so bad that she just wouldn't even like feel anything. When I broke my arm when I was 6, I really broke it bad. Like, I fell off the monkey bars and it broke in 3 places. So my arm was like fully just like, yeah. And I screamed at first, and I don't even remember that. But then, you know, you're in the hospital for like 8 hours before they can do anything, just sitting in the hallway while your arm's broken. And I was like telling jokes to my mom. I was like 6 years old. I like wasn't in that much pain because it was like so fucked up that it was just like my body wasn't even processing it. You know what I mean?
Yes. I've actually, now I do know the worst pain I've ever been in. When I had my horrible kidney infection, I was literally in the ER in a wheelchair. And this is how I know. I wasn't to the point where I was laughing, but I was to the point where I was screaming and I didn't care. Like, I was in a full packed emergency room, like in a wheelchair, like, ah. And normally that would have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know, you try to like stifle it. But it literally felt like someone had 2 knives in my back. And I couldn't sit up and I couldn't lay down on a hospital floor. I've literally never been in that much pain.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Where screaming is not.
And they weren't like, hey, let's get you in here.
No. They always prioritize breathing and heart stuff. And it was, since it was my kidneys, they were like, well, you can probably wait it out. I mean, there was a guy like in front of me. This guy should have gone into. He was throwing up so much. He had tied off bags of throw up, and at a certain point his throw up was all just green bile.
Okay, this is disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting.
And he and I were waiting for like hours, and so I'm like, someone put me in a cardiac arrest right now so I can finally just be admitted.
Well, I've heard some people do this. It's pretty dark. I don't know if you should be doing hacks at the hospital, but people are like, if you go up and are like, my chest started hurting, then they'll like take you back.
No, yeah, I know, but I would have been like, it's just, but yeah, so then I had to wait a long ass time, me screaming, and I know I ruined some, I mean, they're already in the ER. I
ruined some people's nights.
Yes.
I ruined some people's Christmases.
But thankfully, when I stepped on all those thumbtacks, it didn't, there's no infection, I can tell, and it's just kind of, you know, punctured a lot of, but I was fine, and then I just kind of burned myself a lot. So it was a rough morning. So the other parts of the week were good. I kind of want to start like decorating for Halloween. Like you said, you were doing, are you still decorating or are you done?
I decorated September 15th.
Yeah.
Like I was, which is nice because honestly, it is such a bitch to decorate for holidays.
Mm-hmm.
So like when it's up for such a short amount of time, I'm like, I just hate that, especially because I'm kind of like, I don't like holiday decor being up when it's not the holiday anymore. Like, after October, it's done. Like I'm taking it all away. Like I don't want it up. And it's the same with Christmas. Like I love Christmas, but the second Christmas is over, like I don't wait until the week after Christmas. I'm like, it's done.
Yeah.
Like we're done. I want to go into the new year with like a clean house.
Yeah.
And so I set it up pretty early. And it's nice because there's so many like Halloween activities I want to do. I think more than other holidays. Like I love going to spooky houses and having spooky nights and reading spooky books and doing all that type of stuff. So I like to give myself a little more time. And I feel like this year I've really done the Halloween stuff because I gave myself ample time, you know?
Yes.
Which is nice. But you haven't decorated. You're about to start decorating?
Yeah. I feel like I want to like put like spooky stuff everywhere. But then again, Halloween is in like the 9 days. And I feel like if I put up, I mean, I could, you know what? I could do some speed decoration. I just wouldn't have to like overdo it.
I'm like, just pick one room because that's what I do. I'm like, I don't decorate like, I don't put any decor for any holiday in like my bedroom.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, let's put it all in one spot so it's very clear I decorated, but like this is the area people will see and I don't need to have decorations everywhere else.
Yeah.
Although this year I decorated my bathroom.
Okay.
Which I loved. Because I like too, like decorating a small room is a real hack, you know?
Yes.
Like if you don't have time to decorate for Halloween, just do one of your tiny half baths.
Yeah.
Because it makes it, I did 3 things in there. I put a pumpkin mat.
Yeah.
And then I got this shower curtain that has little wiener dogs and witches hats.
Yes.
And then I've got this thing off TikTok Shop that was like it was like a light with 2 ghosts over a fire.
Okay.
And that's all. And it looks like I've decorated to the max, but it's just 3 little things, you know?
Oh, I love that. I've always wanted to be one of those people who like does something funny with their car. Where it's like Buzz and Woody from Toy Story.
I still do sometimes the antlers for
Christmas.
You do? I love them.
Do you do car lashes?
No, but I do the antlers. I do the antlers, and I love them.
Yeah, I kind of want to do something fun hanging out of my trunk, but then also I don't want to get pulled over, you know, when they're like, here's hair coming out of your trunk, and I'll be like, it's a gag. Yeah. Oh, wait, yeah, literally 3 people this morning got pulled over in front of me, but not all at once. It was like separately. One before the gas station, one before I got on like Melrose, and then one in Burbank. And so I was like, am I like
really good at driving?
Yeah, or like this person in front of me is like screwed. So I'm like, now I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. How was your week? Did we talk about
good?
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I have a busy work week, but I'm doing good. My dog, speaking of dogs, you're talking about dogs being a little sick.
Yeah.
My dog's sick right now.
Oh, no.
Devastatingly. She just has a tummy ache, but it always freaks me out because I like can't talk to her about it, you know?
Yes.
And so I could just tell yesterday morning, I was like, she doesn't feel very good. I can, mother's love.
Yes.
It's very strong. And I just could tell. And then she wasn't going to the bathroom. I took her out a bunch and her stomach was making this insane noise. And I was like, oh God. So I kept taking her out and she just kept not doing anything. And then our roommate woke us up last night and was like, Angel threw up. And I was like, oh my God. So then we like set up a little bed as if she wants us. I don't know if this makes her feel better, but it makes me feel better. We like set her bed up next to our bed.
Yeah.
As if she's like a baby who's like, you know, we need to check on throughout the night. Mm-hmm. And she slept next to our bed in her bed. And then crawled into our bed halfway through the night and slept with us. But I get anxious because I love sleeping with her and she sleeps with us a lot. But halfway through the night, no matter what, usually she falls asleep in our arms. Yeah. Halfway through the night, she wanders to the end of the bed. And it just really freaks me out because I'm like, I'm going to kick you off the bed. Yeah. But that's where she like wants to be. So we started like we'll like cuddle with her for a bed and then move her to her bed, which she's a really nice bed. So she likes it. But I feel bad. She doesn't feel good. I always get scared that she like ate an onion or something off the floor. I like try to keep our house really, you know, I'm really careful. Yeah. But I made some guacamole the other day and there were onions, but I checked the whole floor. But I'm of course like scared. They're going to like, something's going to happen. Then they're going to be like, well, she had an onion. And I'm going to be like, I can't do this.
Are onions toxic for dogs?
You can't. Yeah, dogs can't have onions.
Oh, wow.
Apparently. So I've heard. I don't know. I feel like when I was a kid, my dog ate trash. So she seemed fine. But now it's like everything is going to kill your dog. So she doesn't have onions or like, you know, chocolate obviously is the main one. But there's a couple things. Or I don't know if it's like going to kill them, but it's just not good for them, especially in large quantities. Yeah. Like I think if my dog ate an onion, she probably would die.
Oh. Yeah.
But I don't know why she would do that.
Yeah, I don't think you dropped a full onion on the floor.
Who knows? Who knows what? I have no idea.
I just didn't notice.
I don't think I dropped anything on the floor, but I'm like so scared. So anyways, she probably just has a stomach ache, as I do today, to be honest. So we all maybe it's fine. But I was dealing with that. And then what else happened to me? That's really it. My dog is sick.
I'm sorry.
And I'm just working. I'm like prepping. I feel like next month I'm going to have a lot of interesting stuff to tell you because I'm like, this month is really work month, you know?
Yes.
And then next month, I have New York Comedy Festival.
Yes.
And then I'm going to Germany.
Yes.
And then I'm going to have a lot of good stories for you.
Okay.
But I got my head down right now. I have filmed a pilot a couple weeks, like last week.
How'd it go?
It was great. It was fun. I think I did a really good job. And then I have a short film I'm filming this week.
That's amazing.
I know. So I have a lot of work, but it's good. It's like good stuff.
Well, then hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry about your dog, but hopefully with everything with work, it's all Angel's fine.
She's
and
okay,
the pilot takes off.
It's always scary when you have an elderly animal.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what if, like when she was sick yesterday in the morning, I noticed she wasn't feeling good because there's like stairs that go up to my apartment.
Yeah.
And so like usually she like jumps up them, but she was going like really slow, like 1 foot at a time.
Yeah. And
I was like, oh, she doesn't feel good. But then part of me is like, what if this is just the beginning of this? What if this is just how she walks now? What if she's not running anymore? What if she stops running?
Yeah.
Now she's just, this is how she is now. So I feel like with old animals, you're always like waiting for the day that you're like she'll just like start going to the bathroom in the house all of a sudden. And I'll be like, oh, this is just her now. She's so old. So I just get scared. It like freaks me out. And even if she gets sick, it's like so dramatic because it just reminds me that she's getting older and it's very dramatic.
Yeah. No, with Dopey being 12, I'm like so scared that he's going to just, I don't know, develop some weird disease and then it will be the end. But
I know. Very scary. But talk about scary.
Yes.
Ruby Franke is terrifying. Once again, if you don't know who Ruby Franke is, head on over to maybe our couple part 1s, part 2s, part 3s about this case. But long story short, Ruby Franke was a family vlogger from way back in, probably started in 2013, 14.
Yeah. Filming
her Mormon family. They are part of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Church.
Yes.
And she would film her life, that she had 6 kids. And kind of her thing was like, I'm a tough mom.
Yeah.
But in a way that didn't feel that wild because it's like she was also a Mormon and they're pretty tough on their kids. Their kids there's a lot of expectations going on there. So she's a pretty tough mom. She's pretty strict, about what they watched and what they did. And her expectations were really high. And they all played. I remember there was a vlog she had where it was like morning routine. And it was like before her kids had to even went to school, they had a list of like 80 things they had to do.
Yeah.
Which included practicing their instrument for 30 minutes. I'm like, what? So they had to do all these chores, practice their instrument, do all this stuff, and then they got to go to school. So it was just kind of very like intense growing up environment.
Yeah.
She started getting a lot of hate, which you can go back and watch those videos, but she did a lot of just stuff that people are like, that's starting to border on abuse. Sent her kid to one of those wilderness camps, promoted the wilderness camp.
Yeah.
We all were just like, this is going down a dark path. She meets Jody Hildebrandt, a therapist that was recommended, I believe, by the Mormon Church to her.
Yeah.
This woman is maybe the most insane person on planet Earth, mixing with Ruby's already narcissistic personality.
Yeah.
Already nuts as well herself. And they formed a cult called Connections, where they sell parenting advice. But the parenting advice is like, take your kid's door off the hinges and film them 24/7. Like it was that type of advice. It was like, they don't deserve privacy. Anything they own is yours. It was very intense, very bizarre. And one day her son knocked on a neighbor's door, very emaciated, covered in wounds, and was like, I've been trapped by my mother. Please help me.
Yeah.
She's now in prison, along with Jody Hildebrandt. And that's kind of that update. But there's some new stuff that's come out recently because her ex-husband and her daughter, Sherry, have really taken it upon themselves to try to pass some laws in Utah about family vlogging and not allowing it.
Yeah.
And so I know that Kevin Franke is the husband. People have a lot of opinions about him because it is kind of like, how did you let this happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I don't know enough information about him.
Yeah.
He's not a person I would hang out with, but I knew that before all of this.
Yeah.
He's weird. And also, he's a Mormon guy who's like, I am the man of the family.
Yeah.
And I've read some of his BYU teacher reviews. People are like, he's weird. But also the situation seems insane. So I don't know. I have really no opinion on him.
Yeah.
But he gave a speech to courts a while ago talking about family vlogging. And then recently Ruby Franke came forward and was like, we need to pass laws about family vlogging. And she gave this long speech, which I'll read some parts of it. But then she also announced that she is releasing a book.
Oh, nice.
A tell-all book.
Yeah.
And to quote the description, no rock will go unturned.
Good.
And I pre-ordered it.
Really?
I did.
Oh, wow. Well,
I felt like I owed it to her. I was like, I watched too many of your family's videos growing up, so I'll buy your book.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like she's getting some sort of financial compensation, like some, justice from this entire situation. I was going to say briefly touch on they all practiced their instruments before they went to school. There's 8 passengers. 8 instruments are being practiced in the morning?
6, because it's two parents.
6. Sorry, 6. But still, like...
Yeah, loud as fuck.
No, and Naomi is like a full-on pro at saxophone, but like when Naomi plays saxophone, that's loud. So imagine 6 people practicing an instrument in the morning, unless they're like, God, I don't even know what they would be.
It's like they'd get up. You can watch... Actually, maybe it doesn't exist now, but you watch it somewhere probably. They'd get up in the morning at before school. I'm sorry. Before school, I was literally a baby. And I eventually grew out of it. Well, not really. I still have a hard time getting up. But it's like,
yeah.
My mom would when I was in middle school, my mom would carry me to the toilet. And that's true. And sorry, that's sick, but it's true.
Wait, why?
Because I didn't want to get up, but I had to use the bathroom.
Oh.
And I was a little baby. Seriously, I was very small. But I was also 5'8". I was not physically small, but I was emotionally very small.
Yes.
But it's like she would have to feed me breakfast and be like, okay, Kendahl, I'm still wrapped in a blanket at the breakfast table. And then I would go to school in my blanket. And then I was the thought of waking up. So they would wake up and do prayer, which I was telling my partner the other day, I was like, I thank God every day. I was not born religious because the thought of doing extra stuff sounds terrible.
It is.
And especially if you don't really care about it. If you're a kid who's like, I love Jesus and Jesus is everything. And then I'm like, okay, maybe you want to do that. I don't know. But the thought of me getting up on a Saturday and my parents being like, sit at the table for scripture. I'd be like, you can go fuck yourself. I'm not doing that because it's my off day. I just can't. And there's so many religions. I mean, Christianity is probably maybe one of the more chill ones. So many religions are not chill in general, but in terms of homework assignments. I feel like there's so many religions where they're in Judaism, you have to learn a whole other language.
But it's also a culture.
100%.
Yeah.
But just extra work that I didn't sign up for. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Where I'm like, I don't want to. So they would get up and they would read scripture together for an hour before school, then go to their chores, then have to do 30 minutes of instruments.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's awful. Because the thing is, my parents were super Christian, so we'd go to Awana Wednesdays and Saturday nights, and then we'd also go to church on Sundays. So there was just a bunch of memorizing verses.
Right.
What could God mean by this? The same thing he always means.
Homework. It's home. I mean, and if you love it, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But the thought of being raised in something that I'm I probably won't do this after I'm an adult.
Yeah.
But having to spend 8 hours a week doing written assignments. Please.
Yeah.
Thank God I did not have that. That sounds terrible. But so they had all that before school.
Yeah.
And that was her vibe was just I am a super hard parent.
Yes.
None of her kids had technology. They always were getting stuff taken away. She would film and I do give grace to people like Shay Carl who started their family vlog in 2005. Where it's just they did not know what was happening. I do believe that they posted these videos being this is fun.
Yeah.
Family videos, and then it went viral, and maybe somewhere in there they kind of got lost in the sauce of what was ethical.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were starting it being we're gonna make so much money off of exploiting our kids. It doesn't really. But Ruby Franke started later. She started being I want to start a business. I want to start vlogging my family. And she also so she would film everything very much like a parenting video. So if her kid, I remember there's a famous video where her daughter calls in sick from school and is I want to come home. But it's clear that her daughter's 9 or 10 or 11. It's clear her daughter like isn't sick and is pretending to be sick so she can come home from school. Probably because she's being like bullied for being on YouTube. Who knows why? But it's obviously like if my kid was calling every day being like, I want to come home, we would need to have a very like loving conversation about like what is happening. Clearly like there's something that's really hurting you at school, or you're unconfident, or someone's being mean to you, like who knows what's going on. But instead of having that conversation, she films the entire thing, including picking her up from her school. She films the outside of the school, shows where she goes to school, films her the whole walk, films her getting in trouble, talks about like her punishment for it. It's all just so like, in the name of showing how to parent, but it's all so intense and so private. And so, that, anyways, we've talked so much about that. But before we get into it, do you have anything else you need to say about A Passengers?
No, Any
thoughts?
No, you covered it all.
I know. I'm a real gabber when it comes to this because I seriously...
Well, no, you're not gabbing. It's the basis of the episode. So we all need to know this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I kind of talked about this a couple episodes randomly, but a Lifetime movie's being released. That's the first link. A Lifetime movie's being released about Ruby Franke, and it's like one of their, from headlines to TV, they've made like 6 of those. So it's not like alluding to like they do in like Law & Order SVU. It's not like, oh, this is kind of like that case. It's like all the characters are the same names. It is verbatim what happened. Like it is a reenactment of the Ruby Franke situation on Lifetime as a movie. They use all the kids' names.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so Sherry, the oldest daughter, and I say her name because she's now, she's releasing a book. She clearly is. She's fine saying her name online. But so let me just read this. She's very upset about it. A TV movie about Ruby Franke, the Utah parenting influencer convicted of aggravated child abuse, is set to premiere this month, and Franke's estranged eldest daughter has called the film trash. Mormon Mom Gone Wrong, the Ruby Franke story. I just like can't. It's so surreal.
Oh my God.
Is like true. Is scheduled to debut on Lifetime Saturday at either 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. Mountain Time, depending on which cable and satellite. Okay, that doesn't matter. It can also be found on Hulu and other streaming services on Sunday. Sherry Franke, the oldest daughter of Ruby Franke's 6 children, posted on her Instagram story on October 4th that none of us were contacted about the movie. None of the proceeds are going to the kids.
That would actually piss me off because here's the thing. Their parents just her mom literally profited off of her for an entire life. And then now someone else is profiting off of her and she doesn't even get a say in it. Like that's like double burn. This is literally the most triggering situation because it's like, that's actually what I hated about my mom. And so for someone else to go and do it, who's not even my mom. I mean, 100%. If I had to choose between being abused by my mom or strangers, like that's so triggering. Why would you do that?
Yeah, it's truly wild and just so, not very thoughtful. So she was like, I saw the trailer suddenly in class and had an anxiety attack. I think I told you about this, where it's like it came on as an ad in her class. She didn't even know what it was. This movie is trash and only hurts my siblings more. Please do not support this movie. I mean, it's actually crazy to think about, which, sometimes news stories happens and there's just nothing to do about it. But imagine going through what you've already been through. The 2 youngest children and the middle kids too, it's like they are still probably, I would assume, going to school. They have to go to school and not only have had every embarrassing moment of their childhood filmed, but now everyone is in detail aware of their family dynamic and what is going on in their personal lives. It's so just absolutely wild. And then, I mean, it's one thing to like talk about it on the internet. But to have like people in their class will go onto Hulu and it will be the first thing like recommended Lifetime Ruby Franke. That is so bizarre and wild and just very, very sad. And I think there is truth. Like not everything's about money. But it's like, if you're going to go through this, you have to be compensated. Like, that is like so much of what people talk about with parenting is they're like, there has to be laws to ensure they're paid because though that does not resolve the trauma, they at least are compensated in some way. Like the fact that most of these people are filmed their entire life, get to college and have to get a normal job. And like, and have to take out loans to go to college is so beyond me. So very wild. According to, so then Sherry came out and said that...
Wait, the publishing house.
The publishing house, Simon & Schuster, announced on October 15th that it will release. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that so? Then she announced she's gonna have a book come out.
So this entire episode is gonna be a sponsorship for Sherry Franke's memoir.
Go pre-order it.
Instead of don't watch the whatever the hell's coming out. Pre-order her book. Make sure she gets compensated in some way. You're like, I don't read. Audiobook. It's Simon & Schuster. They'll have one.
And honestly, if you're not gonna read, I don't know if I'm gonna read it. But I'm buying it. I don't know if I'm gonna read it or not because it's sad, and I feel like maybe I will read it. I don't know, but I feel like I'd have to be in a very specific headspace to read that book. But it's like just buy it if you can because I think it is like truly one of the only ways to compensate people. According to the publisher, the book was subtitled A Daughter's Quest for Freedom will describe the hidden abuse she suffered at the hands of her mother and how, in the face of unimaginable pain, she found freedom and healing. Sherry Franke, now a student at Brigham Young University, testified last Wednesday before Utah Legislative Committee, calling herself a victim of family vlogging. She urged lawmakers to consider the ethical and financial issues that come from being a web influencer, particularly when putting on one's family on camera. There is never, ever a good reason for posting your children online for money or fame. Sherry Franke said, according to a Fox 13 report, there is no such thing as a moral or ethical family blogger.
I would actually say if there is some, family vlogging, like if you are, actually, no, you need to vlog your family. But like the difference between like family versus like mommy vlogging, if you're like doing like parent tips, that is great as long as you keep your advice vague because you don't want it to like, kind of hint which child the tip came from. And if you don't have your children on camera, but if you're like, oh, this is how I, prepare meals in the morning and all you're doing is filming the lunch boxes and the meals, I would say that that's a good way to go about it. But anything other, if the kids are on camera, if you get too specific, then that's Yeah,
totally. And I do think there's like anything nuanced. And we've talked about this before, but it's like first of all, if you have a kid and you don't want to put them on the internet, that's great. I think if I had a kid right now, I probably wouldn't put them on the internet.
Yeah.
Definitely not in this way, but I may not even like post a photo of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think there are people who like post, like they're the main influencer of their thing. And ever so often they do a dance challenge with their 12-year-old. And it's like, to me, it's like, it's different. It's like they can't all be put in the same box because I'm like, one of them is very dangerous, literally, and one of them is giving out so much information versus like, this is a child. I can see she's dancing in this. I don't know anything about her at all.
Yeah.
I don't know that she has separation anxiety from her mom when she goes to school. I don't know that she had a boyfriend. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know any of that stuff, and I don't need to. It doesn't make it bad or good. I just don't. Like, I think people want to loop everything in together and be like, if you put your kid on the internet at all, you're just like Ruby Franke. And it's like, no, not really.
Yeah.
In my opinion. The Lifetime movie arrives 15 months after Franke's son, then 12, escaped from the Ivins home of Franke's business partner, Jody Hildebrand, and asked a neighbor for help. Law enforcement officers soon found Franke's daughter, then 10, inside the home. Both children were malnourished, police said. The discovery of the children and what Washington County Attorney Eric Clark called the concentration camp-like setting inside Hildebrand's house led to Franke and Hildebrand being sentenced to prison about 6 months after their arrest. Each pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. And in February, each was sentenced to between 1 and 15 years per count, meaning both will serve at least 4 years in prison. Lifetime's publicity materials for the movie describe how Franke, her husband, and their 6 adorable kids were part of the YouTube channel 8 Passengers, which the network called a web series documenting the group's everyday life and Ruby's Latter-day Saint-influenced parenting style. Franke's perfect life, Lifetime's publicist wrote, took a turn for the worse when Ruby's marriage counselor Jody Hildebrand entered their lives. The description continues, Jody and Ruby's views of disciplining children were not strict parenting, but actually abuse. The movie stars Emily Ullerup, a regular on Hallmark Channel series Chesapeake Shores, as Franke. Okay, that's just the cast, and it doesn't really matter. A Lifetime spokesperson said Friday the network would not make a copy of the movie available to critics before it airs. The movie is one of 6 of Lifetime's ripped from the headline series of true crime stories scheduled to premiere this fall. In the same series that produced the Gabby Petito story, a 2020 TV movie that retold the real-life story of Florida travel vlogger who was killed by her boyfriend in Wyoming shortly after the pair drove through Utah.
Oh my God, wait. So the Gabby Petito case and the ethics of true crime, didn't that happen in 2022? To make a
though that's like this though. It's like immediate.
Yeah, to make
they were filming it as it was coming out.
A movie literally as it's happening. Do you think you could influence the case if that like seriously.
It's really wild. And there was something else she said too in this other article that I let me pull it up. Sorry.
So that first article, if you guys want to read it, was by the Salt Lake Tribune, which was literally published today at 5 a.m. So you're on top of it.
Thank you.
And this one's by the Independent.
Yes. Let's see. Okay. Sorry. Pulling it up. Okay. I'm going to skim over this one a little bit, but because we read some of it in the other article, but just some things I found alarming. Is Sherry talking about what it was like being a child in a family vlogging setting. She said, "It is more than just filming your family life and putting it online. It is a full-time job with employees, business credit cards, managers, and marketing strategies." She emphasized that the business employees are children listing specific moments from the deactivated YouTube channel that made large profit. Some of her most popular videos were when my eyebrows was accidentally waxed off and the whole world saw a crying teenager who just wanted to mourn in private. Or the time I was violently ill and got the leading role in the video for that day. Got the leading role. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? My friends became scarce because dates would be filmed and none of my friends wanted to be on camera.
Yeah, I feel like that. I mean, the thing is Ruby Franke probably couldn't. It wasn't even considering consent in the first place. But the thing is if her friends could opt out and that was a perfectly normal request, then it should have been a perfectly normal request from the daughter. You know, don't film someone going on dates. It's one thing if you're like more of a protective mother and you probably eat dinner at the same restaurant, not in view, on the other side, maybe, you know, or you like pick up something to go and you're like, all right, you know. But to literally film the date, I can't even imagine what boy would.
Well, and there are videos that are like Sherry's first date. Like it's so weird. And I think too, oh my God, what was I just going to say? I think that people really want to pretend like it's not, like family vloggers want to act like it's not that big of a deal and it doesn't affect their kids' lives that much.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a lie. Like it's such a lie. Like I do this for a living and I know how much work goes into every single thing.
Yeah.
And I know how much like behind the scenes planning with brands, not that I think the kids are planning with brands, but refilming stuff and having to do it's so much. And it's not that I don't think kids should have responsibilities.
Yeah.
But this is not a thing that they can ever decide to not do.
Yeah.
Like they can have commitments to soccer and then decide to not do it, but she will never have a normal life after this, and she can't because her parents decided for her to do this. And I think it's such a like bizarre thing when parents will be talking about their 7-year-old and they'll be like, well, she likes doing it. And I'm like, I'm sure she does. When I was that age, I loved filming on my like camera or my mom's camcorder. I wanted her to film me all the time. But so yeah, it's one thing to make your kids do something they actively are like, I hate this.
Yeah.
But what 7-year-old is saying that to their parents? Like not many. And they don't know. They're saying yes to being filmed.
Yeah.
They're not saying yes to giving up their privacy for the rest of their life because they don't know how any of that works.
Yeah.
And also, if you were to ask me at 6 if I wanted to be like a pop star, I would have been like, yeah, I want to be famous. You don't know what any of it means. Like, it's just exciting. And so I think people, you know, that they're always filming content with their kids, try to make it seem like it's so just like, it hardly affects their kids at all, but it's such a full-time job.
Yeah.
Like filming videos like that takes so much time, so much planning, so much editing, so much reshooting stuff, so much like you need to wear, even just like how you have to act around. I don't know. It's just very bizarre. I don't really know what I'm saying, but
no, I do. Like the thing is like even normally if you go to your job and you're sick, right, you should like call out. But the fact that she was sick was like something that, oh, now you got to work.
Yeah.
You know, like. So it sucks. And then also the fact, if you think about like the amount of girls that are in this family, I mean, obviously it did like really deeply affect the boys. But if I think about comments I get that are not the fun, supportive ones, like it's if you see my body for like a second, you know, like you see my silhouette and everyone's like, oh, Sarah, let yourself go. Or, oh, Sarah, your skin is breaking out. Like that's people think that that's totally warranted. And the same thing applies for like children. So can you imagine growing up literally on camera without your consent, and now there's these people who think that they're totally warranted in commenting on developing women's bodies? Like that could be just one facet of it.
Yeah.
But then also we know with the internet, people like seriously like like psychologically evaluate your behavior. Right. And like, so now someone didn't even consent, and now if they go online, they can see them being torn apart as like a 7-year-old. It's like, what do these words mean? What are they calling me? Why are they saying this? And then your parents are probably not going to explain it. They're just, ugh.
Well, I mean, and like Sherry was really labeled as like the mini Ruby. Like people were so mean to her because she was like a goody two shoes, and she like sucked up to her mom in a lot of ways because she had to. Like she was so scared. And I think like it was a real like eye opener for people when they were like, oh, I was bullying a abused 15-year-old. Like I was literally making edits, making fun of a abused 15-year-old. Like that is so insane. And I think it also like speaks to just our country in general, because I think that like I saw a post this morning, because now with all these laws going on, mommy vloggers are posting being like, people saying that I should take my kids off the internet. Well, guess what? They all have enough money to pay for their college, all 3 of them, and they're only 9. I'm like, so that is not...
The thing is, they paid for their college.
Right.
Because they earned the money.
Yes.
It actually, like, sure, but it's not you. You just exploited them, and now the money that they got from being exploited, like, that's how they're paying for college.
But also, like, that's a problem with our country. Like, it sucks that, and I think the thing that irritates me is a lot of these people are Trumpers. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you don't believe in free college, but you'd rather exploit your child for 12 years, film them shaving their legs for the first time, and obviously, like, some people have boundaries with it and aren't that weird, but it's like, you're okay exploiting your kid so they can go to college, rather than just like, I don't know, believing that everyone should get free college.
Yeah.
Like you should have to you don't see a problem with the fact that you need to put your kid on the internet.
Yeah.
And have like, sorry, perverts watch them.
Yes.
So your kid can get an education. Like that is fucked up.
Yeah.
And it's also not worth it. Like I don't think, like my family didn't have money growing up, and it's like, I had a great childhood.
Yeah.
When you're that age, like you don't need all of that stuff. When you get older, it starts to be like, oh, I wish I could afford insurance. I wish I could afford, but that's problems in our government.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't help. It's not worth putting your kid through that.
Yeah.
To have money. And I know so many people are struggling right now, but it's like, that's not, the fix isn't to exploit your kid. You know what I mean? So if you do that and you're like bragging that you can now pay for your kid's college, it's like, and then you go and vote for someone who like won't, you know what I mean? Who like doesn't doesn't help the lower middle class. I think it's like, this is not a fix. Like so you think everyone should do this? Everyone should just exploit their children so that they can pay for college and groceries? Like that's crazy.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like, I mean, the problem is fueling itself. Is that autocatalytic?
What?
And a process that fuels itself. Sorry, but yes.
And then she said, and also to say, I'm just saying it's so much goes on behind the scenes. Like there's so much, it is a true job. And Ruby made it seem like it wasn't. Ruby made it seem like she was just like, oh, she happened to catch her kids doing this thing. It's like never like that. She explained that social media quickly became her family's primary source of income. In terms of compensation, she received a $100 shopping spree for filming an embarrassing moment.
Okay, no. The thing is as influencers, we can tell you that like that's not proper compensation. The thing is that her appearance on camera is part of what makes the vlogging like so much money. Like if you were to look at the AdSense and split it between all the kids and then compare that to like $100, like no, like you probably should have given her at least like 10 grand, right? She's doing an embarrassing thing, you know? Like if I were to lowball this person, when it comes to like sponsorship, the thing is like it's not technically a sponsorship. She's not selling a product, but she is selling her soul. $100, 10 grand is probably what if we wanted to, the most ethical way to be unethical, you should have like paid her more. Yep.
Yeah. Sherry continued, if I could go back and do it all again, I'd rather have an empty bank account now and not have my childhood plastered all over the. That's what I'm saying. I think people are like, oh, you think my kid won't like this? Well, they are rich now. And it's like and I can't speak for every child. Some kids might be like, I'm glad I have money. Okay, cool. But that's not a decision you get to make. It's like, what some kids, well, first of all, she's like traumatized for life. Her life will forever be changed. I mean, she can't go to school. These kids specifically get bullied so badly.
Yeah.
I think it was like so sad specifically because, you know, you have kids like Everly, the LeBrant kid, who's like cool. Like she's like popular and cool and like lived in LA and is a dancer. And it's like, I'm not saying it's less traumatizing. Like I'm sure she has a whole can of worms she has to deal with. But I can't speak to if she's getting bullied or not, but it is very different than like the 8 Passengers kids were very much giving homeschooled vibes. Yeah. They were very much not, because their mom didn't like take care of them in a lot of ways. They're not giving like cute outfits every day. Like they went through acne like I did. Like they went through all the normal stuff, and she wasn't like protecting them in that way. Yeah. She was wanting to showcase their worst moments. Yes. To talk about how she dealt with it as a parent. Yeah. And so not only are they getting bullied in a probably normal way for being on the internet and people being, oh, I saw you on the whatever. They're getting bullied now because everyone's making fun of them for being kind of awkward. Yeah. Like most kids are at that age. Yeah. But they were awkward. Like they were very normal kids. Like which I think was like the pull to her channel. It was like they were very, very normal, and there were moments that were uncomfortable, and like they had to go bra shopping and it was awkward, and she showed all of that. Yeah. And so they're getting like double bullied, and then Sherry has to go to school and like can't have friends, it's just like even like Sherry had a roommate her first year of college, and that roommate went and did like a full TikTok series about what it was like living with Ruby Franke. It's just like it's so not worth it to. Yeah. And I think it's easier to be like, oh, easy for you to say because you're struggling to buy groceries. I'm like 100%. The fix is not putting children on the internet. Like I don't know if you think that's the fix. Like I'm not saying that there's not something wrong. Yeah. But that is not a sustainable fix. Yeah. And also is super weird because it's like, okay, well if you're like, most of the time, the algorithm and people give a lot of support to like white, pretty families. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, if you think the only way to pay for college is if you're a white family that like already is doing fine, then that is not a fix at all. No. Because there's a lot of people who could use, most people I would say who are struggling. Yeah. If they vlogged their life, it would not go viral.
No. And also you have to think about like the culture that they're raised in. Like I know Mormonism and Christianity, like they're cousins. But like the whole thing behind like Christianity is like honor thy father and mother. And if you think about like the type of people in Utah where like it's in the articles that we've read, there's like it's almost, we did actually an entire episode on like these mommy Mormon vloggers, right? They were like hooking up with each other. Like vlogging and like creating like a house for content is like a popular thing to do. And also like, so like if you're in a culture where like, oh, this is kind of more normal, what's expected, and then you went against your parents on top of that. So like when like the bullying from like city to city may vary greatly. Like these kids may not know, like if you move the kids to South Carolina, the South Carolinians may not know who the Frankies are, but the Mormon community is incredibly tight knit, and they like kind of support filming and like kind of hyping up Mormonism, and also like honoring your mom and dad regardless of like how they decide to punish you. So like the bullying is like reinforced with like religion, and it's just so it's just so it's jam-packed with shame. Oh, right? Yeah. Like it's not like if most of us listening are adults here and we know like ethically this is something most of us listening would not bully a child, right? But like the thing is they're in a context where like you've actually done something bully worthy, right? You went against your parents and the Mormonism talking about like spreading the gospel. And even though and I know that you're like, oh, but they were abused. Yeah, I'm asking any Christian ever, like you could have been abused. But the thing is that doesn't matter. Like your parents asked for forgiveness and they can do it. So it's like, it's just so upsetting. And the fact that it's so upsetting that Lifetime knew that the actual thing that was so awful to these kids is that they were filmed and profited off without their consent. So for them to, same year before her book even has an opportunity to come out, and you don't release it for the critics, you make a retelling of it. Dude. That would be like if Kendahl and I did like, I mean, actually don't, if we just went to Utah and started filming her and being like, look at what, like we're talking about, like, this is her words, right? So it's just so many layers of messed up. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, she's now an adult. So there's really nothing, there's a lot of privacy being given to the kids who are underage in this scenario. But she's 18. So she has once again, it's legal to do all that. I mean, people can, there were, news people outside her house. Like, privacy is not granted to you when you're an adult in that way.
Yeah.
So she's gone from no privacy her whole life to immediately, less privacy than even before.
Yeah.
So I think there's just, and I honestly, like, some people who just seem like they lived a normal life and now are like family vloggers and are like, oh, this is kind of bad. You see a lot of people pull back. Like, I think you watch people like Maya Knight had her kids on the internet and now doesn't have her kids on the internet.
Yeah.
She did it for 2 years and she was like, no, this is weird. But I think to experience doing this for a job and then want to pull your kids into it is like dark-sided.
Yeah.
Because I know for me as an adult who's in bougie therapy and who like is doing well, I still am like, God, it's such a mind fuck. Like, being on the internet in general, the thought of doing that at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I literally I don't know what I would have done. And people are so comfortable. I mean, they make them, which, I hesitate to even say is the viewer's fault, because it's like, we do treat this like TV. We treat the internet like TV. And when you're 13, maybe you don't have an understanding of like what's going on. But the bullying that was happening is so intense to these children for just like being normal children. And they're not. There's a video, I know I've said this before, there's a video where she kept it in, where her daughter's being like, can we not film this?
Yeah.
And her mom is like, no, we're filming it. She kept that in.
Yeah.
Like, so first of all, they don't even get to consent on like a normal level.
Yeah.
But I think the understanding too that like this will, I'm still blown away that Crazy Pieces, do you know that family?
No.
I like hesitate to even do a video on it because it's so like, or a podcast episode, because I'm just like, I can't even like exploit these children anymore. But they're all foster children who she adopts and literally does like face reveals. Because it's like, when they're fostered to adopt, it's like, well, she can't show their face for the first like
year
before they're adopted.
Yeah.
And then when they're adopted, they do like a face reveal video. These videos are getting millions and millions and millions and millions of views of these children who literally are coming from the most traumatizing thing you can come from.
Yeah. Who
literally like just lost their family and now they're doing an interview sit down where they explain what happened.
Yeah.
They explain. And the lady is like, Crystal's her name. She's like, well, they consent. Like, they don't have to do it if they don't want to. And I'm like, so when you come from an abusive home and you're 9 and you suddenly have these 2 parents that are asking you to do something for you, who would say no to that? Like, you're so vulnerable to wanting approval, to wanting to impress. You want a family. You want to impress. Or it's just so absolutely mind-boggling that this is allowed to happen. And that is also, I think, in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
So Utah has got a lot going on. But it's all these religious people who, I think she's Mormon too, where it is just like, how can you do this and then think you're going to go to heaven? I just like can't even imagine. Like, if that's the way you think about things, how can you not think this is gluttony or any of that? You can't think any of that.
Yeah.
It's so wild to me.
Yeah.
And the Doherty does the same thing. And sorry, Doherty doesn't follows me on Instagram and comments on like all my videos. So sorry to be a hater, but like it's the same exact thing.
Yeah. It's just all so unfortunate. We've done so many videos on like Mormons who vlog, and like that is a part of the culture and it is like spread the gospel. But like, yeah, it seems like a lot of the events are coming out of Utah, which is interesting. I wonder, like, I know like a lot of laws are state by state. I know Demi Lovato recently had a law for child content creators that's similar to the Coogan laws about how they have to reserve like 15% of their income. But it's interesting to see how this is going to unroll, like laws state by state, or if there's going to be any sort of like federal, like addressing of it. The unfortunate thing is, though, if it was like on a federal level, I imagine it'd have to be something incredibly violent or exploitative. I mean, these are all exploitative, but like, I'm scared to see. I don't know. It just feels so, because I mean, in the beginning, like with the Shay Carl types, and he's flawed, but like it was, oh, this is a fun thing, because he himself didn't understand the concept of like vlogging, because like he was literally so new to YouTube.
And you couldn't, no one thought you could become a multi-millionaire from it.
Yes.
Like, he didn't start it being like, this is my cash grab.
Yeah. Because you didn't know, like, I mean, we've talked to the Smosh people, we've talked to people who are like very early YouTube. You just got on YouTube because you were excited to film and post, and like it was so new. And then, AdSense comes along, sponsorships comes along. I know there was a part in like old YouTubers used to apologize before they do a sponsorship. Like, I'm so sorry, dude, this is how I earn money. And now we kind of just go into sponsorships because that's how they earn money. But like, it truly was new. But now that we've gotten to this point, like 2024, what are you doing, dude? And if you're gonna do a dance with your kids, make it a one-off thing. Put a Halloween mask on them, like Gaussian blur, be like, this is an no gendered child, right? They're child unspecified. So you like literally, like, I mean, the thing is treat it like a Reddit "Am I the Asshole," right? Like, no revealing information, a burner account, keep it vague. If you get too specific with details, oh my God, that's definitely Alyssa. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like, it's crazy.
And it's so weird because the main argument, it's not even an argument, but what I hear from these mommy vloggers, one today that I saw, the comment is like, why don't you deal with your kids and let me deal with mine? And I'm like, so by that, you're saying anything goes. Like, that response is giving, like, if you don't like this country, then leave. Like, it's not, it's like, okay, so if I see you beating your kid, I'm supposed to just not say anything. You don't want me to say anything because it's your kid, so I'll let you do whatever you want. If I see that you're not feeding your kid, I should just like let it happen because it's like whatever. It's like, does not make sense. Do I think some people are too up in other people's business? Sure. Okay. Yeah, I don't think everyone who parents needs to do it the exact same way and everyone needs to agree with you.
Yeah.
But when you're doing something that objectively is like a movement of people that everyone is being like, this is bad, it's very harmful, and here's why, stop doing it. The fact that your response is to be like, let me parent my own kids, it's like no looking inward, no because what is the need? And honestly, hate to give the LeBrants a pat on the back. Hate to.
Oh, God.
Here we go. I'm canceling myself. I'm just kidding. They're terrible in many, many ways.
Yeah.
They're, first of all, they're pro-life. I don't need to go into why I don't like the LeBrants.
Yeah.
But in terms of family vlogging, I think they've taken a step back, at least. It's like they used to film all the time, private moments. Now their videos, at least I see clips, and I watched one a month ago, but it's the two of them sitting and talking.
Yeah.
The kids aren't in it. They hire babysitters when they're filming, and they do a Q&A, like once every month.
Yeah.
First of all, I mean, it's privileged because they're rich enough that they can post a video once every 3 months, and it doesn't matter. But they've started a new company that's like a religious company for like, it's an app. I don't fucking know. They're doing stuff that is separate from their kids to like have income. And then maybe once a month, once every 2 months, they post a video that has their kids in it.
Yeah.
And even like there was a video, I saw a clip the other day of like, when I was looking for this video, where he was like, our baby is so confused by the camera because we like don't film anymore.
Yeah.
And like, I think Savannah LeBrant talked about in a video where she's like, yeah, I like realized it was a bit too, just some perspective.
Yeah.
Like of like, oh, instead of getting defensive about what we've built our entire livelihood off of.
Yeah.
Why don't I can still move forward and make changes instead of being like, I should be allowed to do whatever the fuck I want with my kids. So they're very problematic and their children are very public figures. And I think but they like deleted their Instagram accounts they had for their kids. Because like, why does your baby have an Instagram account? Like that is so weird. There was some perspective that's like, even though I disagree with them on everything in the world, I think it is people are so afraid to like admit they've done bad by their children.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that sucks to be like, oh, I fucked my kids up. But to instead move forward and like change something I think is nice because it's like, yeah, it's your kid's life. Like you're going to be defensive and let that ruin your kid's life because it will. Like, especially when they're young is one thing, but the one I saw today, the girl's kid is like about to go into high school. I'm like, she's going to be mad at you.
Yeah.
She's going to get bullied. Unless she's like super pretty and is like popular on social media, and then it'll make it more popular. But that sucks that's like how it has to be, where it's like, well, if your kid like looks like a normal kid, you're setting them up for bullying. And if you happen to have a kid that's kind of like a model, like you're fine. Like that sucks.
Yeah. It's just a all around like shitty situation. I these people, we've talked about them before, but there's such a culture of like family vlogging, and I feel like Utah is going to be the last state to break out of it, really fight against it. I mean, we did have an episode recently where it seems like Christians really just go against science and ethics at every single conceivable point.
Well, this is what I don't get about anything. Like, I like get so mad because I'm like, if you are really religious,
yeah,
and there's things I disagree with you on, of course, but you're just like constant and consistent with your beliefs. No, I don't want to be friends with you, but it makes sense to me. How people can go to church every Sunday, be like, I am a Christian, number one, God first, and then say things constantly like, I don't want my money going to homeless people. How can you say it? Like, how can you be so stupid?
Yeah.
Or like, how can you preach all of that and then exploit your kids on the internet and be like, well, I make a bunch of money from it? How can that come out of your mouth?
Yeah.
Like, if you're not religious, okay, free for all. Like, you can just, if you don't have any morals, you can have morals and not be religious. I am. But if you're just like if you're preaching constantly this like code of morality, and then just like saying stuff that's so mean and bad, and saying things like it's not my job to deal with people who don't have money, stuff like how do you do it? How do you say it? I don't understand how you in your brain can do the backflips to make that make sense.
It's actually because you're not that religion. I'm going to say that actually pretty confidently. So identity is political, but identity is also like religion, like when it comes to Christianity, it prescribes roles, right? It prescribes an identity to you, right? And it tells you about God's identity in like an entire book, right? It tells you that God like wants you to feed the homeless, like, he's the only person who can, punish people or forgive them for their sins and stuff like this. And so like, that that's not your role. Yet you take it upon yourself anyway. So which means that you don't believe some of God's identity, right? If you believe that you can take on some of God's identity, that is sacrilegious, right? And that means that you don't understand your position. You don't understand the religion itself. You don't actually internalize the beliefs, right? Because what makes a culture? It's like customs, attitudes, beliefs, modes of dress, like historical figures, historical texts. So like, oh yeah, you dress modestly, but you don't actually practice what you believe. Oh, like you're just outright awful to every that you don't have the attitude of a Christian, right? Like, oh, you're taking on the role of someone else, so you don't even believe in. So you are not a Christian. You actually do not get to claim that identity, no matter how much you want to, with that cognitive dissonance of yours. Like it's pathetic.
But they think. That's what's crazy to me. Like if like when I see a mega church owner, I'm like, this makes sense to me. Like you don't care, but you want money and you're pretending, and I get that. Like I don't get it. I won't agree with it, but I'm like, I get what's happening. When it's like a woman or a man who's like, they have 8 kids and their life is reading the scriptures and talking about it. How can you be so dumb to not connect that you're not living any of these ways?
It's not dumb, it's straight up avoidance, because like Christianity, like incredibly like strict Christian religions are so heavily based on shame, and since we're raised in a culture of narcissism due to the amount of black and white thinking because of Christianity, you're going to avoid looking at yourself. You're going to avoid looking at what you've done. You're going to avoid looking at your shame, and what you're going to do is come up with these like long ass like stories that you tell yourself. You're like, oh no, it's not cheating on my husband because we were in Guam, and so it was a different like time zone, and so the rational, like how they're rationalizing it is to stop from looking at their shame, which is like a large part of Christianity, and so that's going to create the strongest cognitive dissonance. And not to mention that Christianity is not the national religion of the U.S., but it's pretty much everywhere. So you're bolstered by, like, Christianity is like patriarchy, where like Christianity is going to back you up if you decide to do something bad in the name of God.
Right. Well, and I just like, I mean, obviously it's like the election is coming up, and there's this woman on TikTok who always gets served to me, probably because I watch her videos, because whenever it comes up, I'm like, this is crazy. So I like watch the video. So she keeps getting served to me. She's so obsessed with Donald Trump that like her kids, like their Easter baskets were like Donald Trump themed, and they freaked out. They're like 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Like, isn't that the most insane thing you've ever heard in your life? Their kids like in their free time want to like beg to watch Donald Trump talk. Like it's just so weird. She's obsessed with Donald Trump. She goes to like every rally. Like her and her husband are just obsessed. to me, I'm like, well, you're worshiping him. Like,
Yeah.
more than you keep saying you're a Christian. I've literally never seen you talk about God. Like, I've literally never seen you wear a shirt that has a scripture on it. Like, you're wearing Trump merch all the time. How is that not against your religion?
Yeah.
To, like, literally be worshiping this man who, I mean, I can't even get into it.
Like,
that's literally crazy that that's the man you're choosing of all people, but okay. Like, to me, that, like, I could go down every sin and be like, he's all of these things.
Yeah.
That's the man you've chosen who isn't even able to say one Bible verse because he said it's private because he has not read the Bible. It's just so wild that they can, in their brains, make that make sense.
Yeah, like, you shall not worship false idols. The thing is like, when you claim an identity, right, you, like, have to actually perform the identity, you know? Not, like, maybe physical, like, how you dress, I'm saying, because, you know, there could be, like, safety concerns, genuinely. I'm not saying for Christians, I'm saying, you know, like, I understand. But, like, the belief system, you should at least walk the walk, right? Because this is your identity now. So if your beliefs, the actions that you do not match what you say you believe, why would I believe that you're that identity, right? If I told you guys I was a lesbian and I'm still dating dudes and I believe that dudes are the best in the world and I kept saying I was a lesbian, what would you say? You would be like, actually, I don't think you are, right? I mean, like, the thing is I could dress like a lesbian, sure, but the thing is that's not what a gay person makes. My beliefs, attitudes, customs, like, it's behaviors, stuff like that. Like, there's a language, there's all these different things that are part of a culture. If I was talking about how much I want to date and marry dudes, right? I want to have a hoe phase.
Yeah.
I want to, like, marry a man and I want to give birth to his kids and then be a trad wife. And then I told you guys I was a lesbian.
Right.
What would you say?
Well, and it's so
Sorry,
it's so weird because it is like, and I know we're running out of time, but it's so weird because I went to Utah a couple years ago for a trip, and we were chatting with a girl who I was like, we were doing a brand stuff with her business. Anyways, doesn't matter. But she was raised Mormon, and we were in Salt Lake City, and I found Salt Lake City to be like the gayest place I'd ever been because it was all ex-Mormons, like, who were like, I'm not a Mormon anymore, and now I'm gay, and I'm here. It was just like a real, like, safe place for anyone who was like, that was so traumatizing. So everyone was very nice. Everyone was very, it was just very gay. I don't know, it was very gay.
Yeah.
But I met this girl and she was telling me, she was like, yeah, it was just really weird for me because she was like, I'm not Mormon anymore, but I really identify with, like, a lot of the teachings of Mormonism, but I'm not a Mormon. And she was like, it was very confusing because you're raised being taught these things that are good. Like, you're like, most religions, I would say, it's like, love your neighbor, you know, give to the poor. Like, she was like, that was just ingrained in us. Like, I went to school every day and learned all these, like, morals that I believed so deeply. And she's like, and then you turn, like, 17 and you start interacting with the adults in your church and they are the meanest people ever. And they all are, like, doing everything for money. And it's just it's a really weird juxtaposition where you're raised in a way that, if you're doing it correctly, like, you're like, yeah, this is all really nice and good, but it's not real. Like, none of it is real. So then you become an adult and everyone's like, that was just for show. Fuck poor people. You know what I mean? And you're like, what? So it's a very confusing upbringing, I would say.
It is,
But people are not, like you said, it's not real. It's not like but it's open-ended. I guess someone's version of Christian is very different than another person's, but I don't get how. I mean, I truly don't understand how your brain can do that many backflips to make things that some people who are religious do acceptable. Like that, if you know it so well.
Yeah.
Like, and even when people talk about being gay, it's like they came out as gay to their parents who kicked them out, and they're like, well, my parents were devout Christians. They could recite the Bible to you. Like, they literally knew everything. So then why would they not know that it's not up to them to decide?
Yeah.
What, you know what I mean? Like, how are they not able to remember that it's actually not their job to forgive you or not forgive? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, how do they not see that?
Yeah. You believe that you're the exception to the rule, which would have to place you above someone else, right? And that's already, like, not. It's the thing is like the Bible is, like, there's poems and verses and stories, but it's also a lot of laws, right? Like, not like literal laws, but the thing is when you write a constitution, it's what you stand for. It's what you believe is right. And if you do not follow your own constitution, you stand for nothing, right? So like, and this is what I kind of want the people who are Christian listening to this. If you like truly embody what you say you believe and you work on it, and I'm not expecting perfection by any means. Like I'm saying, like, because only God can do that, right? Then I believe you, right? But when we're talking about, in this case, or being raised super Christian, you don't stand for diddly squat. And I'm so sorry, we don't believe you. Yeah, sorry.
Because I don't even have to agree with you. That's what the thing. I'm like, I don't even have to agree with you. It's like I look at, there are churches that I find to be terrible, but Jesus, they're consistent. You know what I mean? They're like, this is what we think. Sorry, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's terrifying. But to be like, to preach love so much and to preach and to preach all of those things and then go and film your children to put on the internet. And then when people are like, hey, the part where your daughter's in a swimsuit is getting like, specifically, they can look at this. That specific part is getting millions and millions more views than the other parts because pedophiles are watching it. Yeah. And you're like, I don't care. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. And then you won't let your kid watch Harry Potter? Well, okay, let me say a different one. Let me cut that. Yeah. And then you won't let your kid watch, I don't know, regular TV because you think it's too inappropriate, but you're fine having them be watched by pedophiles on the internet. I literally can't. I literally can't. It's like crazy. Anyways, thanks so much for listening. And make sure to pre-order Sherry Franke's book. Mm-hmm. What is it called again? It is called, please hold. It's called, oh shoot. Sorry, you guys.
It is called
okay, I don't remember.
The House of My Mother.
Pre-order The House of My Mother. It's in Sherry Franke's bio on Instagram. You can go pre-order it. Mm-hmm. And thank you so much for listening. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure to rate and review. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. And make sure, more than anything, to have a happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Bye.